I have proof my 28F husband 30M has been having an affair with a mutual friend 32F. Do I confront them or shall I just file for divorce quietly? My 28F husband 30M has been having an affair with our friend Emma 32F. I've suspected something was off ever since lockdown began, but last week, I finally found proof. Before lockdown began, my husband was working increasingly longer hours and was becoming increasingly more distant. We barely saw each other because he would wake up before I did and not come home until after I was already asleep. On the weekends he would go out with friends. When I asked to come, he always shot it down, saying they were doing things I wouldn't enjoy. Then lockdown began and he had to work from home, and I finally started to notice how nasty he had become to me. He was constantly criticizing everything I did. His favorite meal? Wasn't cooked right. The shows I watched? Were annoying. I took too long in the shower, I wore grandma clothes, I never asked him how his day was. It was endless criticism. We've had a dead bedroom ever since his hours started to increase, but I thought it would change now that we were home all day every day. It didn't. Whenever I tried to initiate, he would turn me down with a disgusted look or a rude remark. I finally snapped and told him I couldn't live like this anymore. If there was something wrong, he either had to tell me now or we should separate, because I wasn't prepared to live like this. He started crying and apologizing and said he was sorry, that the pandemic was getting to him, that he would try to be better. That night, we were intimate for the first time in 8 months. After, he couldn't even look at me and he had such a guilty look on his face. He couldn't even make eye contact with me. He started avoiding me and hiding in his office. This is when I started suspecting there was someone else at it. This was 8-ish weeks ago. I ended up finally snooping last week when he went to sleep. My husband is a heavy sleeper, so it was easy to use his fingerprint to unlock his phone. I found thousands of texts and emails between them. There was essing and nudes from her. On the day we had been intimate, my husband had sent Emma a message telling her he couldn't do this anymore, that he didn't know what had overcome him, but he regretted everything that happened between them and he was going to work on his marriage. He asked her not to contact him or me again. Emma sent him messages threatening to expose their affair to me. She claimed he was the love of her life and she couldn't live without him. My husband responded once to tell her I already knew everything so she could tell me if she wanted to. I didn't. I took screenshots of everything and sent the proof to myself. I've been pretending everything is okay for the past week, whilst inside I feel like my heart has shattered into a million pieces. My husband has slowly started spending less time in his office, but the guilty look is still glued to his face. I never thought he could do this to me, especially not with someone who was supposed to be my friend. A part of me is so angry and I just want to scream and rage at them both. The more sensible part of me knows it won't be worth it and it'll just give Emma the satisfaction she clearly wants. To make things more complicated, I just found out I'm pregnant. My husband doesn't know yet. The B-star didn't even have the decency to wear a condom when he knew he was cheating. Is a confrontation even worth it? Shall I just file for divorce and get it over and done with? Redditor's reactions update after. Redditor 1, maybe you should meet a divorce lawyer first and figure out your options. Once he finds out about what you know, he might start burning, deleting, or getting rid of evidence. Now is the critical information gathering stage before everything blows up. Redditor follow-up. Agree. This is the kind of circumstance where our first instinct is to do something that is emotionally correct, but you need to swallow that and be smart. You are in the right, you deserve the best long-term outcome. In time the satisfaction of a perfect confrontation or gotcha will fade, but nothing will be more satisfying than a well-executed and unexpected divorce where he has to fully account for this behavior. Once that's over you can rent out a billboard, fully take the high road or whatever else you want to do. But for now, lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. Redditor 2, the more sensible part of me knows it won't be worth it and it'll just give Emma the satisfaction she clearly wants. I'd argue that your husband wants that satisfaction to some extent too. Part of the allure to some at least of cheating in this long-term fashion and engaging in such a deep betrayal is being able to revel in the psychodrama. The thrill of sneaking around. The threat of being caught and exposed. The on-the-spot lies. Juggling a double life. You confronting him in your rage where a huge back and forth breaks out with the most intoxicating emotions allows him to act out a possible next chapter of that narrative. Even if he wouldn't explicitly enjoy it, it would still have value and meaning to him. Deny him that by coldly and calmly leaving, and you'll force him to confront those illusions. He's not Don Draper, his life isn't an Updike novel, he's just a sad, worthless man in an empty house. Redditor follow-up. In the end, though, it isn't about Emma's satisfaction or your husband, but rather whatever makes you happy. If your relationship is something you want to try to salvage, then confronting him and seeking therapy is something I suggest trying. If not, then cut your losses and get out of it. I do, however, recommend seeing a lawyer first and sorting out your options. Depending on how long you've been married, your marital assets, if you have a prenup, if you live in a community property state, could all factor into your divorce. You want to have all the info and your ducks in a row before you do anything. Redditor 3, contact an attorney to find out what your options are and make sure you do everything legally so it doesn't come back to bite you later. Then file and let him be surprised when he gets the papers. If you plan to keep the baby, you will need to tell him. If you plan to terminate, then you don't have to tell him anything. Update, I think I hate my husband. I posted here a while back asking if I should confront or file quietly. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for their advice. It was really helpful, and reading comments from people who could relate to what I was going through was a great comfort. After my first post, my plan was to serve him with papers without warning. Unfortunately, life continues to suck. 2 weeks after my post, I sadly miscarried. I ended up confronting my husband while I was miscarrying. I don't know what came over me, but I could no longer hold it in. He begged me to give him a second chance, and I honestly don't know why, but I agreed. But I can't stop being angry. Every day I want to rage and scream at him. His attempts to be nice annoy me. I hate being like this. I think I hate him. I just want the anger to stop. Redditor's reaction story 2 after. Redditor 1, then you really shouldn't try to reconcile. The last thing binding you to him is now sadly gone. It was traumatic enough of an experience. And he did nothing to assuage that concern. Please at least do a trial separation to understand how you feel without him. Redditor 2, I think you should go back to your original plan. It was a good one. Redditor 3, the anger will stop when you remove him from your life. Story 2, my sister is having an affair with one of her patients, and I don't know whether I should report her or let her fiance know. My F19 sister F28 is a doctor. Been working in another hospital for 8 months. She's currently engaged, and she'd visit my parents' house often lately, and we both would talk about a lot of things. Recently she's been talking about a guy that I never met before. She said she sees him at the hospital she works in, but later revealed that he is actually a patient of hers. I felt uneasy because she was showing me texts before deleting them. Also pictures, and she seemed to be in at least an emotional relationship with him. I was so worried I got uncomfortable whenever she brought it up. I tried to avoid her, but she'd tell me I'm the only one she can talk to about this. I asked her about her fiance, but she avoided my question several times. Her fiance is a good man, at least we've known him for years since they started dating. I'm not sure if he already started noticing something was going on. I told her what she's doing was wrong, and every time she'd berate me and tell me to just forget it. But then she'd come to me again wanting to talk about the guy she's seeing. I don't think anyone else knows about this besides me. I'm not sure if she talks to her girlfriends about it. And I wasn't sure how to react. It was too much pressure, and I couldn't help but feel sad, especially when her fiancé visits and talks about the wedding with my mom. I've told my friend about this, and she told me my sister was violating the law and should be reported. I gotta be honest, I freaked out because this is huge, she could get in trouble. I thought talking to her fiancé and letting him handle it maybe? I asked my boyfriend for his opinion. He first called my sister a piece of work, then told me to stay out of it. My heart feels heavy, I feel awful, she's making me part of this now. It got out of control after she started using me as a cover, like how we're going shopping when in fact she was somewhere else. Yesterday, she called me and asked me to text her fiancé and tell him she was visiting us, but she wasn't. I refused to lie and told her to stop it. She ended the call after yelling at me and berating me. What should I do? Should I report her or just tell her fiance and let him deal with it? Their wedding is in February and she doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. I have no idea whether she is seeing him outside of the hospital. However, she talks about him all the time and seems to be the one who started it, not the patient. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, tell the fiance and let him deal with it. Also, your sister is a piece of work. I'm a med student and it is properly drilled into your head that this is bad because you're abusing a position of power over someone as they trust you a lot. She will definitely lose her license if the relationship started when he was a current patient, but she deserves that. But definitely tell the fiancé cause he shouldn't be strung along. Redditor follow up, yes, agree with this entire comment. I'm also a med student and she should absolutely be reported for this relationship, especially if she first met him as a patient. Even worse if your sister is a psychiatrist. However, as a sister who's very close to my siblings, I know it'll be hard telling her fiancé and stirring up trouble that, honestly, your sister made for herself, but he deserves to know what kind of person he might be tying himself to. And from your comment and post, it doesn't seem like she's a very good sister to you in the first place, putting you in this situation and asking you to keep her disgusting secret when you're so young and probably look up to her. Maybe you can do it in an anonymous way? Maybe through an email pretending to be a co-worker or something. I wouldn't want her to give you trouble even if she dug her own grave, but clearly she doesn't care about you as much as she cares about herself and might take you down with her just because she thinks you betrayed her. Redditor 2, she is definitely not supposed to be involved with a patient and she knows it. She could lose her license or whatever they give doctors. I am not an expert and even I know that. Has she had some sort of mental break? Like, not being sarcastic here, she's risking her livelihood as well as her future marriage for a patient she hasn't had time to know very long. Red flag, red flag. Redditor follow up, has she had some sort of mental break? Look, I know I'm probably in the minority opinion here, perhaps I should stick to her unpopular opinion, but why does everything anyone ever does wrong or social unacceptable always have to be some sort of mental issue or something? I see this type of comment in every Reddit post here. Does no one ever take responsibility and consequences for their own choices anymore? Does it all have to be excused to some outside force or mental cause? Whether it's financial, or relational, or even political ideological, it seems everyone is quick to claim some excuse for it. Sorry, you tricycle dreams, didn't mean specifically to you. I guess your comment ended up being the thing that broke the camel's back for me. I am a very internally loci-focused individual, and it bothers me that the majority opinion always seems to want to run to some mental or psychological cause for every action someone takes. Redditor 3, you need to stop the fiancé from making a mistake. Please give him evidence of the affair and mention that she has used you for alibis. The job thing is tricky, but your sister should not be around patients. I would report her, but that's me.